Welcome to Marking the End Times. I'm Mark Hitchcock, and thank you so much for joining us for today's program. On today's program, I want to talk about the growing threat of a war between Israel and Hezbollah. I mean, it's something that's been splashed all over the news everywhere. The northern war that everyone has feared appears like it could be right on the verge of erupting. And also along with this, I want to talk about really, there's no other way to describe it, but some shocking new threats against Israel from Turkey. Now, Turkey is one of the chief conspirators in the future Magog War predicted in Ezekiel chapter 38. And Turkey's always been kind of a little bit of the fly in the ointment, kind of everybody wondering, well, how's Turkey going to really fit into this? Because, after all, Turkey's a member of NATO. But just this week, some shocking, stunning statements have come out of Turkey about Israel. I want to talk about that also in light of this threat on the northern border of Israel with Hezbollah. Now, before we tackle these topics, I want to give a brief preview of the subscriber-only section that we'll go to here in just a few moments to answer some questions that have been sent in by our subscribers. A couple of these questions have to do with a video I did a couple weeks ago about the hand of God in sparing President Trump from that assassin's bullet. One person asked, what is the biblical answer to people who say, why would God spare Trump and not the fireman who was killed? And again, a related question, did the hand of God want that man to take the bullet instead of Trump? I wonder how his wife and family feel about all of us praising God for saving Trump and yet her husband is dead. So some very good, thoughtful questions. Another question is in Revelation 21:14, John mentions that the 12 foundations of the city will have written on them the names of the 12 apostles of the Lamb. Does Scripture indicate anywhere who the apostle is that replaced Judas by name? And then a final question, a very simple one, but I think one maybe all of us have wondered about one time or another, is are Adam and Eve in heaven? Are Adam and Eve in heaven? So we'll look at those four questions here in a bit when we get to the subscriber-only section. The name Hezbollah has been all over the news, and Hezbollah means party of God. And Hezbollah is Iran's strongest proxy. Iran has a lot of proxies in Iraq. The three major ones they have really are Hamas, Hezbollah, and the Houthis down in Yemen. But Hezbollah was founded by Iran in 1982 by the Iranian Revolutionary Guards Corps. And Hezbollah has been firing rockets into Israel almost nonstop since October 8th. That's a day after the Hamas militants stormed into southern Israel and had that massacre there, the atrocities that they committed. Since that time, since October the 7th, really it started the next day on October the 8th, so it's been going on about 10 months now, cross-border fighting has gone on almost daily as both sides are firing back and forth. Israel into Lebanon, the Hezbollah into Israel. Israel has taken out several key Iranian and Hezbollah leaders in a lot of this back and forth. Thousands of Israelis have been displaced in northern Israel. In fact, I was reading this week that in northern Israel, it's littered really today with what we could call ghost towns. Now, the ongoing question is, when or if a northern war will begin? When will Israel face a war in its northern front? They've been fighting, obviously, down against Hamas, down in Gaza, down to the south and to the west. But when will this northern front break out with Hezbollah? So for 10 months now, there's been a great deal of back and forth, but all-out war has been avoided. They've avoided this kind of major escalation. Israel and Hezbollah have been pursuing a long campaign of kind of low-level hostilities along the border. But last Saturday, it appears that Hezbollah may have gone too far. We all have seen, I'm sure, the stories of this missile strike up in the Golan Heights that killed 10 children between the ages of 10 and 16 who were just practicing out on a soccer field. This missile, this rocket from Hezbollah from Lebanon came and hit this soccer field in a Druze Arab village. Now, a lot of you may have heard that word, the Druze, this Druze village. Just a little bit about that. When you go to Israel, you find out there's a people living in northern Israel. They actually live in Syria and Lebanon as well, called the Druze. There's about 1 million of these people today. I mean, it's kind of an Arab sect. It's an offshoot of Islam that they like to be considered separate from Islam. But the best way to put it is they're kind of a conglomeration of several religions and philosophies. So this deadly rocket hits this area, and actually these are people who are an offshoot of Islam. It kills 12 of these children and teenagers. The deadly rocket that hit that soccer field was made in Iran. Of course, Iran denies any connection with this whatsoever, but it's been clearly proven it's an Iranian rocket. So Iran's fingerprints are all over this deadly attack. One other thing I'll just mention quickly, we hear a lot of these terms like a missile was fired and hit in the Golan Heights. What is the Golan Heights? Well, the Golan Heights is about a 500 square mile area in northern Israel that borders Syria. I mean, it was captured by Israel in the 1967 war. And of course, it's a disputed territory, but it was recognized when Donald Trump was president. He recognized the Golan Heights as part of Israel. So it's in far northern Israel on the Syrian border, and that's why obviously it's more accessible to these rocket attacks. In light of this rocket attack, Israel's Security Cabinet has approved a military response to this rocket attack. And they've given Prime Minister Netanyahu really full leeway to go and to respond to this attack. In fact, CNN has a headline that says, "The Israel-Hezbollah war that no one wants could finally blow up." We've been talking about that here a lot on endtimes.com, and this could be the catalyst to kind of the final trigger for this war. Prime Minister Netanyahu just said this week, "Our response is coming, and it will be severe." So the world right now is kind of holding its collective breath to see how Israel will respond, and if Hezbollah then will respond back. And of course, this could get an escalation going, and to see if Hezbollah will unleash a full offensive, and what part Iran might play in this war if it breaks out. Now, any war with Hezbollah will be devastating to both sides. Hezbollah has at least 150,000 missiles and rockets pointing south down into Israel. And many of those pointed at the major city there of Tel Aviv. A war would certainly devastate Lebanon, but would also do serious damage to Israel. Now, at the same time that Israel is facing this potential northern front war with Hezbollah in Lebanon, Turkey is turning up the heat on Israel in a major way. They've issued a threat of invading Israel. Now, that's right, you heard me right. Turkey has issued a threat to invade Israel. I mean, this is a stunning development. Fox News headline says, Turkey's Erdogan, that's the president of Turkey, threatens to invade Israel over the war in Gaza as regional tensions grow. Politico has a headline that says, Turkey threatens to enter Israel to protect Palestinians. Reuters says, Erdogan says Turkey might enter Israel to help the Palestinians. I mean, this is a surprising, shocking, stunning, significant escalation by Turkey, who's a member of NATO. The Reuters article says this, President Tayyip Erdogan said on Sunday that Turkey might enter Israel as it had done in the past in Libya and Nagorno-Karabakh. Nagorno-Karabakh is a place in Azerbaijan that Turkey entered some years ago. Though he did not spell out what sort of intervention he was suggesting. Erdogan, who's been a fierce critic of Israel's offensive in Gaza, started discussing that war during a speech praising his country's defense industry. So he's given this speech about their defense industry, and he says, we must be very strong so that Israel can't do these ridiculous things to Palestine. Just like we entered Karabakh, just like we entered Libya, we might do similar to them. And he said, there's no reason why we cannot do this. We must be strong so that we can take these steps. So we need a strong military so we can take these steps and ultimately invade Israel. Erdogan has also said this. He said, Hamas is not a terrorist organization. It is a liberation group. They're waging a battle to protect their land and their people. But he does call Israel a terror state. Israel's foreign ministry also hit out on President or Prime Minister Netanyahu on Monday, comparing him to Adolf Hitler, what he's doing there and in Gaza to a genocide. So I think we can safely say that the Middle East powder keg is being ignited like never before. The fuse of the Magog War is beginning to burn. And here we see two of the key players of the Magog War that the Bible says will attack Israel in the end times. In Ezekiel 38, verse 5, we have Persia mentioned. Persia's modern-day Iran. In Ezekiel 38, I mentioned this many times on these videos, but 4 of the nations there mentioned are in modern-day Turkey. Meshech, Tubal, Gomer, that's the area of kind of central Turkey, and Togarmah is the eastern part of modern-day Turkey. So here you have 2 of these nations, Iran and Turkey, today in the headlines with the will, the desire, the means, the motivation to attack Israel. And Hezbollah could easily be part of the many peoples with you who are mentioned in Ezekiel chapter 38, verse 6, just kind of a collective group of Israel's enemies that will join Russia and Iran and Turkey to invade the land of Israel. So two of the key players right now have the will and the means and the motivation to invade Israel. Iran wants to attack Israel and invade Israel. They already have. And it's doing so through its proxy Hezbollah, even as I speak. And now the president of Turkey is threatening to invade Israel. Russia, of course, is the other key player in all this. They're Rosh, mentioned there in Ezekiel chapter 38. But it's not very difficult to imagine Iran and Turkey at some point convincing them to join this coalition when the time comes. So these are some really shocking, stunning developments, especially these statements by the president of Turkey. And they just show that we're far down the road to the Magog War and ultimately to Armageddon. It's just another sign to us of the nearness of the coming of Jesus Christ and our need to be ready and how we live our lives each day and what we do to prepare for the coming of Jesus Christ. We're going to go down to the subscriber-only section, answer those questions that I highlighted earlier. If you're not a subscriber and you'd like to be one, you can go to endtimes.com, sign up there for just $7 a month. And I think it'll be a great investment in your spiritual life as you come to understand how what's happening in our world relates to the scenario that's laid out for the end times in God's Word. So let's go now to that subscriber-only section. We'll answer these questions.